hello.
How are you doing?
Very well. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. How is the weather in London?
It's not too bad. It's been pretty hot and not much rain, which is kind of surprising for London, but there's some nice wind and it's pretty comfy at the moment. Last week was pretty hot.
Yeah, there is something terrible going on. There is a heat wave all over the place.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I kind of always wonder, like, if we were lucky enough for like our generation to have screwed it up, or maybe after all, you know, um, it's something normal because it would be kind of unbelievable. The Earth existed for like billions of years, and just our luck for like our short, what, 80 years that we're lucky enough to get all of these great, yeah, events. Anyway, back to our usual topics. We are going to talk about some interesting things that happened and also about Beam, some recent developments and the developments that are going to come next week and sometime after that. But we will probably wait for a few more minutes for people to join. Yeah. There was this interesting story, kind of funny in a way, that guy sent us this morning. Let me find this tweet, and we'll share it. So someone really wanted to trick a bot into buying an ENS domain. Did you hear that
Yeah.
story? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was actually interesting. So what this person has done is he created some really kind of useless ENS domain name and registered it, and he created a second wallet and he created a bid for that domain for 100 ETH. And
Yeah.
obviously, some bots tried to kind of counteroffer with, I don't know, the 1.9 ETH. And he was like, "Oh, I got one." So he sold his useless domain to the bot for 1.9 ETH, and he was so happy about it that he went to brag on Twitter how he tricked the bot into buying a useless ENS domain for 1.9 ETH. The one thing he forgot is that his 100 ETH bid was still active. And so he basically, yeah, this one.
Yeah.
He basically lost 100 trick.
Yeah. He
Um,
he did make 1.8 Ethereum or something like that, but lost 100.
it actually gets even funnier because he then tried to send back the 1.8 ETH in order to try to convince that person to send him back the 100 ETH. So he didn't even get the 1.8 ETH.
Yeah, and the wallet that like got the wallet that sold him the ENS back for 100 ETH went out and bought a bunch of like kind of funny and kind of cool like NFTs. So they took the ETH and they were buying like a bunch of different like rare Pepe cards and a heaps of different stuff. It was kind of funny.
Yeah, so it's a mix of kind of instant karma event and also like if you're trying to run a scam, please don't forget, the second part.
Yeah.
It's like all of these Hollywood movies when you see somebody is robbing a bank and then like forgets his driver's license on the floor or something like that.
Yeah, the like bored ape people are really good at like marketing themselves like virally by doing really stupid stuff. This is one thing that I've noticed. Like
Yeah,
every other day,
for
someone's
sure.
giving their seed away in Discord or trying to sell ENS domains for 100 ETH.
It's kind of like this TV show. What's its name? Where they're doing really Jackass, I think it's called.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's the Web3 version of that.
Mm,
Yeah, I don't know if the story is true or not, obviously, because but it's definitely funny and it definitely got attention. That's for sure.
yeah. That's
So let's talk about Beam first, and then kind of mention some other interesting things that happened. And obviously, as usual, if anyone has any questions or wants to add something, please do so at any time by requesting to speak, and we will let you in. So last week, we have finally released the version 2 of the NFT Gallery.
Yep.
And it was important for us to release it, even though we said upfront that it's not a final version, and there's going to be a V3 with a long list of features still waiting on, to be implemented. But it was important to release it because of the integration with the IPFS that it required, and we wanted to kind of set this baseline from which we can now improve this application. Took a lot of time to test, implement, and develop. Yeah, we're glad it's finally there. So please check it out. It's on mainnet already, and new works are being added all the time. For now, we do have manual kind of process of whitelisting these works, but will all go away in the next version. We made it manual for now because we don't yet have a search function. So once we have a proper search, we will be able to basically upload any works, but only present in the publicly viewable kind of front pages on the list of works that can be selected. And basically, that's what almost all marketplaces are doing today. And all of the rest will be searchable, and you will be able to find any artist or any collection that you like. However, this is like just one of the long list of features that are waiting in line for the next release. Royalties is also a very important feature. That's one of these like kind of key things that we will add in the next version, and actually many more. We will probably create a new board soon with this list of all of these features standing by for V3. And yeah, so go check it out. Please provide your comments and feedbacks, and obviously look at the works, buy them, upload yours. Now you can mint them yourselves, which is also a very big step forward for us. The second application that was launched on DAppNet last week and will be launched on mainnet next week, so like this week, is the B.A.N.S, a Beam Anonymous Name Service. And it's an actually very interesting application. I'm really excited about it. So let me tell you in a few words what it does. And I really encourage you to download the dApps wallet from our website. We will post the link in Twitter. DAppNet is our kind of really, immediate testing network. We roll out all of our applications there once they're like even a little bit ready, so we can play with them, provide your feedback, find bugs, etc. And B.A.N.S is already on the DAppNet, so go play with it. So what does it mean and what can you do? It's kind of our version of the E.N.S, of the ability to create and buy domains for yourself. Only, as usual in our case, everything that is being sent to these domains is completely confidential, including like the identity of whoever bought the domain. But also, more importantly, whenever somebody sends you funds to your domain, they cannot see any other tokens or whatever was sent to that domain by other people. Unlike E.N.S, where you can just take the E.N.S address, put it in the Blockchain Explorer, and see everything that this E.N.S ever held or holds now or sent from or whatever, all of these operations. In Beam, they're all completely confidential. And we see it as a very useful and interesting feature. And this application is kind of also the first step in this direction. We're going to integrate these domains into our wallets and the other applications, such as the NFT Marketplace in the future. And we are going to make this kind of your identity on Beam. Yeah. So
this, sure. Like you mentioned, I think it was in the last space or a couple before, this will be very like useful in what initially wanted to do with regards to like the address management and the address book and the Beam wallet.
Yes. So the address book was always kind of matic because in Beam, the addresses are actually SBBS addresses, and they're all either created one time. Some can be reused, but still they are usually created all the time, and it's very difficult to manage all of these addresses. Now, in B.A.N.S, it gives you this ability to have a readable short name that can be used for value transfers and many other operations without sacrificing your privacy. It's a good thing. So, as I said, the application is currently on .NET. Like when we're going to launch it on mainnet next week, the process will be something like that, and we will obviously publish information officially about it tomorrow on our Twitter and Telegram channels. But since we're here, you will kind of get a preview of this process. We are going to announce the day and the time of the official release of the application. And we are going to deploy the contract with a specific height, which we will also announce, which will match this time period. Okay, so let's say it's going to be, I don't know, Wednesday evening for our time, probably morning in the United States. We will find a convenient time. And then within that time, we will announce a specific block height, and we will time our kind of unusual Twitter space for this launch period, right? So the exact dates are still being determined, but that's what we're going to do. And we're going to launch this application live with you in a Twitter space. And obviously the application will be deployed before, because it's a process. You need to deploy the contract, deploy the front end, all that. But the actual trading will only be enabled at that specific block height that we will announce. And the reason we want to do that is because we do want to give equal opportunity for all people to be there first and to get their favorite domains, whether it's their names or whatever, any other domains that they want. And not, like, oh, you already launched it, I missed my opportunity to buy alex.beam and all of that. And that's why we're trying to make it as fair as possible for everyone.
Yeah, and this we talked about different ways that we could make it as fair as possible, and whether we should do like lists that were kind of reserved thing, and then we kind of came to the conclusion that more just keeping it simple was probably going to be the best kind of way to go about it.
Yeah, we did discuss some options to kind of pre-select premium domains or whatever, but after some discussion, we decided that it will just complicate things.
Yeah.
So it's going to be like completely open, like just this is the block height, and from this point onwards, anyone can buy anything he wants. So it's going to be interesting, by all means.
Yeah, it will be like it'll be the first kind of first come first serve event for B.A.N.S. It will be pretty fun, I think.
Yeah. These things tend to go south often because of suddenly spike in demand, but we will be there to monitor it, and we hope that we will keep it on the air. But yes, it's going to be an interesting test. Anyway, in order to be prepared for that and in order to understand how the application works, once again, please go and download the .NET wallet and take a look at the application, buy some domains with Play Money. You can always get some .NET beans from the faucet so that you know what you're doing. And when the time comes to buy your real domain, you will be prepared and not like trying to understand, wait a minute, how do I do that? What's that button? So yeah, please ask all of the questions, before. This will increase your chances of getting your favorite domains.
Absolutely. And when the time for mainnet launch comes, and obviously the domains will all be like sold for Beam for like yearly or bi-yearly or for 3 years and this kind of thing, all of the funds will go to the BeamX DAO, and it will be like the first revenue generation towards the DAO. So I think this is also a very like interesting aspect of it, and also like interesting not only for bands but for the wider kind of ecosystem, and seeing how that will work, and whether similar things will happen with the likes of the NFT marketplace or other kind of that are launching on Beam and kind of with the DAO behind it.
Absolutely. Yes, it's going to actually be the first application that generates revenue for the BeamX DAO in a way.
Yeah.
And yeah, so in terms of like for now, inside the application, you have several kind of basic functions of what you can do with these domains. You can send funds there to the domain owner, and you can obviously you can buy domain for several years. I think it's up to, I don't remember, 50 or something. Like you can really buy the domain for many years ahead. The short, like the price policy, I don't remember if we published it, but I think we did, but we need to republish it. Like obviously it's very similar to B.A.N.S. The shorter domain names cost more. Like if you want a 3-letter domain name, it costs more than the 4-letter, and like 5-letter is even cheaper, and that's like how it goes.
Yeah.
And what's important is, first of all, if your domain expires or you sell your does not affect the funds that were sent to you. So let's say I buy, I don't know, alex.beam, and then somebody sends me, I don't know, a 10 beam there. So if I sell alex.beam later, my 10 beam are still kept in my account under my public key. So you don't need to take out of all of your money from the domain before you sell it. You can do it anytime you like. And you can also transfer the domain to a different person or another wallet. We call it this kind of a gift, domain gift, right? A transfer option. Without selling, you can just transfer it to someone. So these are kind of the operations that you can do at this point in this B.A.N.S application.
And this leads me to a question. I know the answer, but I thought it would be good for everyone. With the B.A.N.S address, will they all, or sorry, will the like receiver, if I give you my B.A.N.S address, gus.beam, and then you send me beam, I don't need to be online, or do I? And how does like the gus.beam address work with relation to like SBBS addresses or this kind of thing?
Yeah, so your domain is mapped to a vault in your name. It's kind of this box, that you keep in the bank with all of your, jewelry, or in case of Jason Bourne, guns and foreign passports. So all of these funds get into your vault box, and they're kept in the contract. So you don't have to be online to receive them.
Yeah.
You can come anytime and just check the contents of your box and see if you have something there. And if you want to, you can withdraw it into your wallet, and then you can use it as regular confidential assets or coins or whatever. Yeah, so you don't have to be online, and it's kept for you in the contract.
That's good. That's wicked. And I mean, because like not so much of a problem now, but when like we initially launched and had the SBBS addresses, and you had to come online 12 or 24 hours like from the funds being sent. Now we have offline addresses, but I think this takes it even a step further and makes it like super convenient because you can have an address that you can remember, and that can also act like in a similar manner to an offline address, and people can send you funds whenever, and you can kind of go and pick them up whenever as well.
So it's important to stress that it's not intended as a replacement for our existing address schemes because of several reasons. First of all, SBBS and offline addresses, they are both more private in a sense. And if you are just doing some value transfer, you want to send funds to someone one time, it's always kind of better to use traditional transactions, either Mimblewimble or Lantus, like online or offline, for this purpose. However, the B.A.N.S with the anonymous frame gives us a lot more options to integrate interesting new kind of types of transactions within DeFi applications. For example, it was always very difficult, if not impossible, to do airdrops on Beam.
True, yeah.
And this was one of the kind of key, key blockers, that the fact that you need somebody to be either online or get his, so now it's much easier because you have these, B.A.N.S address visible, or you can know them, especially if we're talking about something like the airdrop for like holders of specific asset or NFT collectors, or you register for some event. and you get some token or confidential asset or NFT as an airdrop. So all of these things become much easier now that we have this mechanism. And it opens a lot of new options for application creators or application kind of people who has ideas for applications to use this as a building block in their kind of application ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it like we've mentioned a lot in the past about non-financial excuse me, non-financial applications in terms of like social media, or people have put on the forum about messaging apps and this kind of stuff. And I think like this on-chain identity in a B.A.N.S address, then it's something really wicked. We do have a question in the Telegram chat from Unseen Shadow King. And this is a good question. After, like, say I register Gus.beam for a year rolls around, and I no longer like extend it or this kind of thing. Do the domains after expiration become available to others?
So yes, after your domain expires, if you do not renew it on time, you have, I think, 2 weeks grace period, something like that, when you cannot use this domain, but like it's not available for sale. But then, yes, it's returned to the market and it can be purchased.
That's cool. And like, you can also, I was talking about this earlier today in like a very different context. And actually I just realized how like similar it is to like B.A.N.S addresses and domain sales and this kind of thing. Like we went for a walk and we saw a store that was advertising a lease for the store available like to purchase, and like they have the contract for X amount of dollars for a year, but like to get that lease, they want you to pay them money. And this is kind of like how the secondary market will work for, well, how it works for domain names and how it would work for B.A.N.S as well. You can wait, you can try and wait until it expires and then purchase it there off like in this case, the DAO, I guess. Or you can kind of try and buy it off the current owner of the lease.
Yeah, so there are a lot of possibilities. We did not kind of implement, obviously, all of them. But what we would like to do is to get started and then kind of collect feedback about what's the way to do it. Because obviously, you can do a lot of things. You can do auctions of different varieties, limited time or whatever. For now, you can just basically sell your domain on the marketplace. And, this is kind of the first thing that comes to mind, flipping domains. That's what people have been doing since the beginning of Web 2, even Web 1, I would say.
Yeah, the OG speculators of the web.
Yeah, but definitely there are a lot of interesting possibilities, and we just want to kind of understand what would be the best way to do it. One example, for now, the NFTs and the domains are not linked together. So you cannot send your domain as an NFT on NFT marketplace as of now. And this is like, it's like, unlike OpenSea, on the OpenSea, you can go, since it's like the same standard, you can basically sell your ENS domain as an NFT on the place. That's a question, like what's better? Like, do you want to go to one marketplace and see all of that? Or like if you want to buy a domain, just like in Web 2 world, you go to GoDaddy or any other website that is known to sell domains and you buy it there. It remains to be seen with what will work better. And we're always open to comments and suggestions. And that's why we have the forum to put all of these discussions. And finally, we have the DAO, and the DAO can vote what we would like to implement eventually. But all of the possibilities are definitely on the table. That's the idea.
Yeah, and Unseen Shadow King. He needs a shorter name, firstly. But he just mentioned about like this avoids like the having like 1 year, 2 year kind of extensions and then back into the open, not the open market, but like for sale, the DAO itself. This avoids like domains getting hoarded and then like lost and losing them altogether from the ecosystem. And I think this is really an important kind of aspect of it, and a good reason to go with that, because there was discussion around like having a way and then that person owns the domain forever and this kind of thing, and the pros and cons versus the kind of renewal system that we're putting in place.
Yes, I agree. There are a lot of questions there, like what's the best way to do it. So the renewal idea is, in my opinion, it's a good idea, but still you can buy it for like, I don't know, 5 years. And then after 5 years, I don't know who will remember what and where we will all be. But this is exactly the purpose of the DAppNet and the application on the DAppNet, so that we as a community can provide feedback on the application that's about to be released before it is actually released. And I know that very few people are doing that, unfortunately, because, who has time to play with these testnets and DAppnets? But in my opinion, if you are a community member and you are involved and you want to, be heard and influence the process, DAppNet is your friend. It's a very, very nice network, 15 seconds block times. You will not be stuck waiting for any transactions. And just install it. It installs easily alongside your regular Beam wallet. It does not interfere in any way. You will just have two wallets, and then you can always open the DAppNet and see what's new, which applications are currently being released and explored, and provide your feedback. And we really, really appreciate that.
Absolutely, and it's like for it's a massive like head start on anyone that's trying to at least register on the launch day. Having a bit of practice on DAppNet will be a huge kind of advantage, and also that goes with all the dApps. Like, you don't want to be making mistakes or losing funds or whatever when you could have had a go and play around on DAppNet and got more familiar.
Yeah, if you have like, I don't know, any issues specifically on your system, then, it can happen. You will be able to discover them earlier. Yeah, just benefits. Yeah, for sure. So what's next, right? So what's happening after this week and we launch B.A.N.S? We have still several kind of DeFi applications that we have previously talked about to be released. I can't say exactly the dates, because all of them are still in kind of different stages of development and testing. But I think the end, probably like mid August, will be already a hot time, and some interesting things will be released then. No promises, but stay tuned, so to say. And the next kind of important thing that it's also going to be is, first of all, we will have this repeat hard fork. Because we screwed up and we forgot an important parameter for the price of new confidential assets. So we will have that hard fork announced probably in the beginning of August, and then it will take place end of August, something like that. But in addition to this, also have the version of Beam Wallet with the asset swaps in the works. And this also probably going to happen in August. So the asset swaps, if you remember, is your ability to exchange various types of confidential assets on Beam chain in a built-in marketplace, similar like we have for atomic swaps. Only in this case, all of the exchange items are actually confidential assets on Beam chain, so it does not require lengthy process to exchange them. It's basically one transaction. You create an offer to exchange some amount of asset A for some amount of asset B, and then whoever accepts that offer creates a transaction to do exactly that. So this is the major feature that is going to be released in the next version of the Beam desktop wallet.
This is wicked. And you mentioned you mentioned the hard fork, like to bring the confidential cost up to speed, will be end of August roughly. Does this mean that around that time or soon after, the community could expect the bridges to also be like on the horizon?
Yeah. So the three things that that I mentioned are bridges, uh, stablecoin that we develop with our partners, and the DEX. These are the three DeFi applications that kind of complete this first basic layer of our DeFi ecosystem.
Yeah.
And I really hope to release like all of them in the coming 2 months. So let's say August, September, like one by one, we want to complete this release. We want to complete the next hard fork, and we want to complete the asset swap in the wallet. So this will kind of create this milestone, very important milestone that we worked for the last year and a half, basically, to kind of have fully functional DeFi ecosystem on Beam with privacy, with very high quality wallet integration, decentralized app store. So all of these components that we were building are coming to play to bring it all home, right? So that's the goal.
Yeah, this is going to a very like you said. I mean, being worked on for over a year now, and it's going to be like very exciting times for the ecosystem. Like having these three kind of base applications for DeFi, the bridges, the stablecoin, and the DEX going live all around the same, or kind of like in conjunction with each other, as a lot of them work well with each other, like the stablecoin and the DEX and the bridges and the stablecoin and the DEX. They're all working very like well together and will form like a very interesting base and solid base for anyone else that's looking to build on Beam as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, and like it's not the end of the story. It's basically just the beginning, right? That this is the point where we're going to have enough, enough meat in our ecosystem to start really attracting users and funds, liquidity. Everything is coming together at this point.
Yeah.
So with that said, like it's also important like to. So as you know, like the next step is going to be our development of EVM compatible sidechain. But this is kind of the important step for now is to clear this current pipeline of applications that are already in development before we can fully focus on this next step. Even though we're already developing it and researching it, but in order to make it available like inside our development process, we need first to clear our table from all of the things that are already in development. So it's a really important milestone for us as well. Technically, so to speak. And it's also very interesting to see what's happening right now in the industry in general, like where things are going, because even though it's a bear market on the face of it, but projects are still building. Actually, it's considered a great time to build so that when the next bull market arrives, you're ready with stuff. And we see a lot of interesting developments right now. So let's kind of mention a few caught our eye this week. So I think that I want to start with Polygon. So Polygon, don't quote, it's not a trading advice, not an investment advice, and don't quote me on that, but I really like what they're doing. I think they very strong kind of ecosystem that just gets stronger and does very interesting things. And just this week, they announced the release of Polygon ZK EVM, which is an EVM compatible zero knowledge proof schema. Let me find the link here and tweet. Really something that you should look into, because a lot of projects are working on zero knowledge, whether in the context of ZK rollups, and ZK EVM is considered kind of this, the pinnacle of this technology. It's basically generic enough to support any EVM compatible contract. And several companies are working on that and announced progress in these areas. and Polygon is one of them. So let me share this in our tweet and read the article. I think it's very interesting what they're doing.
And this, like you said, so many teams are working on like the ZK kind of side of scaling or this kind of thing. And I want to ask, like, because I know that from when we've had past discussions and kind of what I've heard from you, it seems like you have like a very kind of like Polygon has piqued your interest in what it's doing on this front. And
Yes.
I want to say, like, what this is like a question, not so much about B.A.N, more about Polygon. Like, why? Because for me, I see 10, 20, 30, 50 teams building like ZK stuff to do with Ethereum on their own chain and this kind of stuff. For me, it's almost impossible to like differentiate between what any teams are doing. Because I'm not massively technical, and to me, I kind of read any papers and it all seems the same. So, like, what is it that really stands out for you with what Polygon is doing here with the ZK EVM?
Okay, so first of all, it's not like I'm a big expert in anything, so don't like everything I say. After all, is my opinion, but the way I kind of like I try to read as much as possible. Obviously, I don't have time to really have in-depth investigation of each project, but there are some trends that we kind of recognize in general. So let me give you an example. Like Beam has been here like for like last 4 years. And a lot has changed during these 4 years. And some ideas, even though they have been kind of promising and interesting in the beginning, they just didn't materialize in a good enough way. So one of the problems with all crypto projects, you go to the webpage, you read the documentation, and it sounds amazing, right? It's like, wow, like everything is possible, and it's the greatest, and money of the future, and blah, blah, blah. So the blah, blah is always amazing.
Yeah.
Because they have money, they hire great marketing guys, they create beautiful websites, the logos are amazing, everything is good. But then when you take a look either at the historical perspective, if the project was around long enough, or at the technology, you look deeper into what exactly they're doing, you start finding all of these kind of, let's say, differences between the advertised abilities and the actuality of the project. Let me give you an example. Polkadot. Polkadot is a very old project. I don't even remember when it was founded. Probably, I don't know, 16 or something. But they had a very good idea, and but they do still have very good idea, and they had a lot of money, a lot of development, and they actually like considered one of the better, let's say, projects in terms of like the technology and the developers that are working there. However, you see that for like many, many years, it kind of didn't completely materialize, right? It's not there yet, even though it's been trying to get there for many years, right?
Yeah.
So the same like can be said about Cosmos. Like Cosmos is kind of a little bit newer. They do have an ecosystem, but they have a lot of problems of their own. And when you are starting to kind of try to understand why this happened, like why didn't they there, right? So obviously there can be a lot of reasons, but sometimes one of the reasons is that they were kind of too early. The idea was too early for the existing market because think about it, like back in 2000, I don't know, 18 when we started and Beam started, there were no DeFi, no NFTs. There was like very basic use of smart contracts. Most networks were focused on transfer of value. And the question was, oh, are you a medium of exchange or are you a store of value? And are you proof of work or are you proof of stake? And in this environment, when they came with the idea of Internet of blockchains or like interconnected blockchains, it was kind of a little bit early. But now, in fact, this time is kind of coming, in my opinion. Okay. So you do see some trends like big projects that are have started on Ethereum, gained their popularity on Ethereum, they suddenly realize that Ethereum might be a little bit too constricting for them or too expensive. Like take, I don't know, take some like major project like Uniswap or whatever. They're already in the, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of users. They have a lot of their own community and value locked into their own protocols. And then they say, why should we give Ethereum miners these huge fees and compete for each transaction? Like, why can't we have a blockchain of our own? We're big enough. We have ecosystem fund. We have money. Take, for example, Aave, I think, right? No, what's the name of that guy who created this? I'm sorry. I'm terrible with that. Stani, right?
Yeah.
Stani is from, yeah. So exactly. So you see the kind of projects that he is starting now and funding. Very very interesting projects. And these kind of big projects that started on Ethereum and gained their popularity there, they start moving on. They're looking for different solutions. And one of the solutions is exactly the concept of application-specific blockchains, like what Cosmos is selling and what Polkadot is selling, right?
Yeah, and this like the idea of these application-specific blockchains has been like around since the early days of like Polkadot, and there was a lot of talk of it in 2017, even when like none of the applications had enough traction to like kind of not enough traction to really make it having their own blockchain. But now we're really seeing that, and a lot of these are having enough traction to make it more of an to make the idea make a lot more sense. Like you said, that I think it was DYDX. They've sort of said that the V4 will be on Cosmos something. What's the Cosmos one's called?
The
Cosmos DApp chain.
What's the name of the sidechain there? Like
yeah, this is my one qualm. I wish they all had like the same name for their like.
No, you cannot market. No, you cannot market like that. No, it's just application specific blockchain. In Polkadot, it's called Parachain.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, I'm on this Wikipedia page, and just the numbers. It was created by Gavin Wood, who is a co-founder of Ethereum, as we know, and they raised 144 million in ICO in 2017. Those were the times.
How much did they like brick with the Parity wallet bug though?
Don't go there.
Yeah. I think these are the two things I remember like of Polkadot and how much they raised, and it was one, they like bricked a lot of it, and then they kept it in Ethereum, and then they sold it at like $80 in 2018 or whatever it was, when the last time it was at $80, and they sold the very bottom of like the bear market. And they apparently they said like they'd given it to like a professional trader, and they were thinking like, oh yeah, it's at $80 now, but it's going to $40, so we're gonna cash out the funds that we have.
Unbelievable. Yeah. So basically, like that's exactly like what was happening back then, right? So all of these kind of people with experience in creating Ethereum and insight and like kind of vision of how this can develop, they saw these issues and they saw these opportunities back in 2017, but it was not actually not like, it could not have been adapted by the market back then. And only now we see the real kind of use and need for these. By the way, the other project is Cardano, also founded in 2017 by Charles Hoskinson, who is another co-founder of Ethereum. I don't know how many is there, but they are also for many, many years working on very cool sounding and scientifically looking stuff, none of which is kind of usable. But once again, it was too early. So back to the Polygon. So right now, the war is really beginning, right? So right now, there is an actual run for who is going to be the provider of these application specific blockchains as an ecosystem. And suddenly somehow it seems to me, and this is like my opinion. By the way, anyone is more than welcome to send me materials or argue with me or whatever, because I would really like to update my opinion if it's incorrect. So it seems to me that Polygon is kind of very well positioned uh, to play this layer two game and succeed in it. Okay, so they have the money, they have the popularity, they have the resources to play it. So that's why I'm really watching what they're doing. And obviously, no one knows which solution will eventually win, right? So you have optimistic rollups and ZK rollups and ZK EVM and all kinds of layer twos and bridges. So everything is happening at the same time, but it's important to watch the key players in the space in order to, and now I'm switching back to my kind of Beam CTO hat, uh, in order to know where we should develop dedicate our resources, because we started as an island among other islands and we competed among islands. And now the island started to kind of interconnect and change and new functionality started to emerge. And Beam is a long-term project, right? It's been running for the last 4 years and probably will run for another 40. But when we're doing our, we need to kind of understand where the industry is going and try to match our development plans to the current, not exactly trends, but more like current directions that the ecosystem is taking, because otherwise, we don't want to just remain within our kind of small realm of confidential blockchain
Exactly.
all by itself. Yeah. We
It's
do
like
want to. Mhm.
yeah, it's important to like keep iterating and moving with the times and I mean this is like what we've seen with anything that like kind of stops and solidifies itself as one thing. Like Blockbuster never kind of got on board with the online or streaming stuff and faded away and we will see this with many projects in crypto, I'm sure, where they maybe find product market fit, but then the market and the fit in the market kind of shifts without them and then they get left behind. And this is kind of what I shared it with the thread from. Sorry, I have a bunch of police cars going past my house as is usual. This is kind of what was mentioned a bit and seen a lot more discussion with regards to Bitcoin and kind of how they've thrown all their eggs at Lightning in terms of like scaling solution and it's struggled a lot to get traction, not just outside like in the real world, but also even like struggled to get some traction in the things that are happening within crypto where people are paying money. Like there's with regards to NFTs, I mean, OpenSea hasn't integrated Lightning, and this kind of stuff. Many exchanges haven't integrated Lightning, uh, and I think that like this is very important. Less important for Bitcoin, but like we can learn a lot from it in the kind of alt space. That it's very important to like move with the times and evolve as the industry itself evolves.
Yeah, this is exactly like the story that comes to mind. And actually, uh, I think we should be really kind of mindful to what is happening with Bitcoin,
Yeah,
because recently the news coming from Bitcoin are kind of mixed. Some developers, which are very important developers, are leaving, stepping down as maintainers, and in general, it's not clear like what exactly is happening there. Like for me, at least, I'm not very deeply involved in Bitcoin, so maybe I don't know, and everybody else does. But I think it's important to know that, because what's happening in the first kind of couple of years of Beam existence, like 2018, 19, Bitcoin was just after the first like kind of impressive all-time high of 19,000 back in 2017, and we were in the bear market, but still. The Bitcoin was considered kind of the uh, founding block like of everything else, and a lot of solutions, Lightning included, was developed around limitations of Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin has certain limitations by design. No smart contracts with no Turing complete smart contracts at least, and like specific constructions that certainly were not about to change. And the Lightning Network was an attempt to create scalability while taking into consideration the limitations of Bitcoin, right? So that was the idea, and it didn't. Reasons I'm not going into that. That I'm certainly not going to tell Guy Korema told you so, but didn't happen, and even like not only did it not happen, nothing else materialized, and Bitcoin didn't kind of didn't move to this position where this solution would be accepted by anyone. It kind of moved out of the way and gave all the other networks this space, right, for streaming transactions or instant transactions. And today, that's exactly the point. Like nobody would even consider using Bitcoin for that. So Bitcoin kind of moved to this position of digital gold completely and gave up on any attempts of trying to participate in DeFi game. By the way, first designs of confidential DeFi on Beam before the smart contracts. If you remember, and if you don't remember, you can look it up. You know, it's all on the internet, including the old videos that we made and articles that we wrote, was about scriptless scripts. And I have recently accidentally found my old interview to someone, I think it was Russian, about this idea of scriptless scripts. And it was very kind of interesting because they asked me, like, how can you make smart contracts without smart contracts or like DeFi applications? And I explained to them how the scriptless script idea worked, not to mention the fact that I learned to pronounce scriptless script quickly for the like better part of that year. But it didn't happen. Eventually, we have added smart contracts and we have implemented everything using these smart contracts, and which opened a lot of possibilities. I'm very glad we did that. But the reason we even thought about doing that with scriptless script was exactly because at that time, this kind of way of thinking, Bitcoin way of thinking, was more dominant than it is today.
Yeah.
And this is very interesting. Did you share the thread? Can you send it?
Let me share it. Give me 1 second.
It's a very interesting thread. Highly recommend.
Yeah, it's really good. And I mean, like I feel a lot of kind of I can't think because I'm multitasking, unfortunately.
Okay. So.
It's like it's very relatable thread to anyone that's like a supporter of Bitcoin and a Bitcoiner, but doesn't like form to the idealists that do in crypto that isn't Bitcoin and this kind of stuff. And this is coming from Erica Wall. I think it's Eric, but he occasionally becomes Erica. And like a very big proponent of Bitcoin, and he's quoting Udi, who's also a massive proponent of Bitcoin. Like these guys are huge supporters and have been Bitcoiners for many years, but they're not afraid to like question and give some kind of constructivism to the ecosystem and to the people involved and what's happening and this kind of stuff. And I think it's a really good thread that kind of outlines what's going on and where we're at in terms of like Bitcoin adoption and Lightning adoption in terms of the wider crypto kind of ecosystem and how retail, like how, not retail, how like normal individuals acting and paying for stuff with crypto and these kind of things, how they're going about doing it.
Yeah. So we are coming on the hour suddenly, and I just want to mention a couple of interesting things that we should look out for because there were some announcements. First of all, there was an announcement suddenly from, who was it, that they're releasing something tomorrow?
Tether. Tether. Yeah, Tether.
So Tether suddenly announced something strange, which has something to do with advertising for some reason. And they tweeted about it. Nobody knows what that is. At least we don't. If you do, please let us know. But it's in the news.
Yeah.
And so tomorrow something will happen with Tether, something interesting. Keep following the news. And another news that who is what a stablecoin this time?
Curve, like the guys that created the stable coin not just stablecoin, but like stable peer swaps on Ethereum, and seen like very large traction in this regard, and they're apparently in the background working on a stable coin. So this will be, I think, very interesting to kind of follow and see what happens on that front.
Yep. So some things to look for in the coming days. Um,
Absolutely.
there was one other piece of news that I wanted to mention. Let me find what it was.
While you're finding it, I want to say that like in my the thing I want to see most on Beam is in a dApp that is pretty much the same as Curve, and I think this will be very cool, and very cool for a couple of reasons. Because firstly, it means that like there's a multitude of like stable coins and wrapped assets on Beam, which will be huge. And also, I think it's really cool application for people that are kind of navigating around using different stable coins and different assets and this kind of stuff.
That's for sure. Yeah. So the piece of news I wanted to mention is that attack that was on the Odious governance contract.
Yeah, and Audius is like a NFT marketplace for like audio NFTs. Is this right?
Yeah, it's a Web3 kind of a for, I don't know, Spotify or like Tidal or all of these streaming kind of services. But I really like this project. That's why it kind of made me sad. But they'll get over it. Audios is amazing because they come with this idea of own the platform. So the artists that upload their work on Audios, they get tokens and become kind of the governance of the platform. So they have influence over how this platform is working, behaves, and how the royalties are distributed and all that. I think it's a great idea, and it's a great kind of mechanism in general to allow creative people to come together and share their work in a way that does not give all the benefits to the platform, but rather keeps the control and with the creators of the original work. Um, I think it's very important. I think that people who OpenSea, for example, right? So the OpenSea is kind of for me it's so strange because like you have this amazing NFT movement. You have a lot of artists, a lot of creators, but then eventually it all kind of comes to this very old school Web2
Yeah.
centralized marketplace. And like you're losing a great opportunity here, especially the big collections, especially the collections that have money and power to change things. Do it Web3 way. Do it like with the ownership. Do it with the um, self sovereignty and the better governance, DAO based governance. Like why would you come to the
Yeah,
I believe it
it's
will happen eventually, but yeah.
yeah, I think so, and I think like OpenSea will be like a blockbuster compared to like the future Netflix or whatever. I mean, it's like very stuck in how it's doing things in a very like Web2 aligned way. It's not using like NFTs to further like empower artists, which I think is a huge thing for whether it's music or digital art and all kinds of stuff. They're not really like at all doing any of this, despite like how significant they are in the space, which
Yeah,
is kind of a
I totally
shame.
agree. I totally agree. I think it's kind of a wasted opportunity because after all, like you come and you say, okay, I'm a Web3 artist. I make NFTs, and like, okay, great. And where are you selling them exactly? Ah, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, Rome was not built in one day, and everything is still ahead of us. And on that optimistic note, unless we have questions
Yeah.
or
Do we
comments.
have any questions?
Then we will be wrapping up and thank everyone for being here with us as usual on Sunday. And we will not see you next week because we will see you before that on the launch of the B.A.N.S application. And then we will see you next week.
Exactly. And the band space will be announced probably like with not a huge amount of leadway, maybe the day before or something like this, a couple of days before. Is that right?
I actually hope to announce it tomorrow with the newsletter.
Okay, cool.
I just want to make sure we're all ready, and we don't want to like cancel it at the last moment because of some issue. So I will just make sure that we're all tested and good to go, and then we will announce it. But yeah, it's still not going to be like it's going days before.
Cool, perfect. So we will see you at the B.A.N.S space, and then also see you same time next week.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for being with us. Highly appreciate it, and have a great day.
Have a great day. See you guys. Thank you so much.